So you all ready to fire Barack Obama and save America? Are you ready to win? Are you ready to win? We are in a battle for freedom in this country. It's the same battle that founded this country, that James Madison reaffirmed in the Bill of Rights, the same battle that founded this party, and here we are today. Because we know that a country that has to surrender its sovereignty to its bondholders can't guarantee prosperity or freedom to anybody. And a country that buries its kids and its grandkids in an avalanche of debt can't rest in any vestige of the moral high ground. And we know that a country controlled by China can't compete with China. We are in a battle for freedom in this country today. And we have the antidote for that battle, and it's Governor Romney and the next Vice President, Paul Ryan. Now I'm going to say something that it might seem a little harsh, but I think this president's got a problem with the American dream. I think that this president has a problem with success. And he's certainly willing to use success, isn't he, to divide this country, to spread division, to be everything that he promised he wasn't in 2008. Because while Barack Obama is in love with the sound of his own voice, he hasn't been in love with following through with his promises. And we're going to put someone that can follow through with his promises in the White House, Mitt Romney. You know, when I grew up in a place pretty similar to Lima. I grew up in Kenosha, Wisconsin. My dad was a union electrician. He retired from the Racine Unified School District. And when we drove around town, much like all of your parents, my dad, he didn't point to the beautiful house on the corner and say, hey, listen up, kids, look at these lousy people over here. He did what all of your parents did. He pointed to the house and he said, listen up, pal. If you work hard and you go to school, you're going to be in that house. And you know what? Mom and Dad, we pray that it's 2 times bigger. You know, there isn't a Democratic parent or Republican parent in America that wishes for this glass half empty, life of Julia, depressing, big government Obama world in America. Nobody wishes that upon their kids. We are going to, through Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, we're offering a better future for this country, a choice of 2 futures for this country. This is our generation's time for choosing. This is our rendezvous with destiny, and we're going to get the job done in Ohio. This is ground zero. You are going to light the pathway for liberty and freedom in this country, and you are a blessing to us, and we are going to be here with you. We are going to fight with you, and we are going to save this country. Hire Mitt Romney and fire Barack Obama. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your U.S. Senator, Rob Portman.
I drive my truck and drive. I pick up my baby. She jumps in with a kiss and a hey. We exit off that old highway. Sometimes you gotta go beyond the pavement. You gotta go deep.
What a crowd. Allen County looks like Romney-Ryan country to me today. Thank you all for being here. I know why you're here. You're here because you care about your family, about your state, about your country. And you're worried, as am I. You're worried about the direction of our country, aren't you? Folks, we can't afford another 4 years of this, can we? I've learned, being a statewide candidate, that nobody does grassroots quite like Allen County. You all are amazing. So thanks for the phone calls you've already made. Thanks for the doors that you've knocked on. And thanks for what you will do with Keith Cheney to deliver a big vote in Allen County for Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. As a candidate for state office, I learned that nobody builds the grassroots like Allen County. As a member of the U.S. Senate's Armed Services Committee, I've learned that nobody builds combat vehicles like the Lima tank plant. Folks, the 800 men and women at the Lima tank plant have stood tall for our soldiers and our Marines from World War II through Vietnam, through Korea, through Desert Storm, through Iraq, through Afghanistan. It's now time for us to stand up for them. I love going to the plant and seeing what they're doing. It's a proud group of men and women. They're the best in the world at what they do, and they produce the best combat vehicle in the world. Can you believe that this administration, President Obama, wants to shut it down? It's the wrong thing to do for our national security. It's the wrong thing to do for our economy. And folks, it's the wrong thing to do for us as taxpayers. Let me explain. By shutting down that plant and mothballing it, as they proposed in the president's budget last year, again this year, which we have fought, but by doing that, it's going to be more costly, not less costly. It makes their budget numbers look a little better short term. But think about it. Where are those 800 folks going to go? How about that supply chain, all that expertise all over Ohio and all over the country? What's going to happen to that supply chain? What's going to happen to that skill and that expertise? We're going to lose it, aren't we? The analysis has been done. We believe it is more costly to the taxpayer to shut it down and start it up again, as we'll have to do, than to do what we'd like to do, which is to keep that plant running, keep those skills in place, keep those workers employed, and ensure that Lima continues to be the best place in the world to build a combat vehicle. Now here's the good news. Help is on the way. Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney understand the need for a strong national defense. They understand the need to ensure that we do have not just a tank plant in Lima, Ohio that works, but a military that works to protect the peace, to ensure that we can, as Ronald Reagan used to say, have peace through strength. You're also fortunate because you've got some members of Congress who are here today who have stood up for the workers at the tank plant. Jim Jordan, where is he? Nobody's been a better advocate for it. Mike Turner on the Armed Services Committee. I also see we got Matt Huffman here and Keith Faber. We got some great representatives in Columbus, Ohio, a couple rising stars. And then, folks, I said help is on the way. We need Josh Mandel in the United States Senate. Josh is not just a veteran, and he's got great experience in state government, where actually he had an upgrade in our bonds here in Ohio when the national bonds were downgraded. But folks, Josh is Harry Reid's worst nightmare. He's a majority maker. He's a majority maker, and if we can elect Josh Mandel, it will force the United States Senate to deal with these issues we've been putting off for too long, like stopping the out-of-control spending, ensuring we can get this economy back on track by encouraging the private sector, and being sure that America's promise can be kept. Folks, thanks for helping Josh Mandel. We need him. We need him. We need Josh, and we need Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, because times are tough, aren't they? They're tough here in Ohio and around the country. The numbers are unbelievable. The worst recovery since the Great Depression. Unemployment, over 8% for over 43 months. Barack Obama has stood up before the American people, and you know what he has said? He has said, re-elect me because my economic policies are working. That's what he said. Let me ask you this, folks. He pushed through the Congress a $1 trillion stimulus plan saying that if we put it in place, unemployment would be 50% lower today than it is. Is it working? He pushed through a health care bill saying if you do this, the cost of health care is going to go down by about $2,500 per family. Folks, it's increased $2,500 per family. Is it working? He ran for election saying, if you elect me, I'm going to cut the deficit in half. We just got word there's another $1 trillion deficit there, and the debt has increased by 50% just in the last 4 years. Is it working? Take-home pay is down $4,300 per family. Gas prices have more than doubled. Folks, is it working? It's not working. The good news is we've got help on the way. The good news is we've got a candidate in Mitt Romney who knows how to get America working again because he's got that private sector experience. You saw it in that video. He knows how to turn things around, and he's got a great partner in Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan's one of my best friends in Congress. He's a guy who gets it. He's smart. He's articulate. He knows how to go after the tough issues we face. No one on the national stage has had more experience going after the economic issues and the budget issues we have to solve as a country. He's also a guy with Ohio Midwestern values. He's a hunter. He's a fisherman. He's a great family man. And the value that he shares with Mitt Romney is a passion to get this economy back on track, to help Americans achieve their God-given abilities, to get this deficit and debt under control. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the next Vice President of the United States, Paul Ryan.
We're going to win this thing? Absolutely. Man. Thank you so much, everybody. Hey, please, thank you so much. Have a seat. Let's get her done. That's right. Not only do I like to hunt and fish, I like to hunt and fish in Ohio because I'm a graduate of Miami University of Ohio, and there's some good hunting and fishing around there. Jim Jordan is a stalwart in Congress, and Mike Turner is one of the best advocates that you have for our interests here. Send these men back, and please send Josh Mandel so Harry Reid is no longer the majority leader of the United States Senate. Friends, we have a big choice to make. The contrast could not be clearer in this election. Rob Portman went through it all. He went through the fact that this is anything but a real recovery. It's the worst one since the Great Depression. We need a real recovery. Now, the economy isn't growing anywhere near where it can grow. It's barely limping along. And the president has no idea how to grow it. The president has no idea how to create jobs because you know what he's promising? Just more of the same. You see, the Obama economic agenda has failed not because it was stopped, but because it was passed. Don't forget, President Obama controlled government for 2 years. He got almost everything on his laundry list passed. And in the last 2 years, he spent regulating. Here's the killer. President Obama, just the other day, he said on TV that I can't change Washington from the inside. Why do we send presidents to the White House in the first place? Isn't that why we send presidents to Washington, to change Washington? You know what? If he can't change Washington, then we need to change presidents, and that means we need to elect Mitt Romney, the next president of the United States. Mitt Romney knows economic growth. He knows job creation. You know why? Because he's created over 10,000 jobs. Get this. Mitt Romney was a successful governor, but he was a successful businessman. And you know what? That's a good thing. Being successful in business is a good thing. We don't sneer at that. We take pride in that. We believe in businesses being successful because that means more people get hired. That means workers have more job security, more take-home pay. That means the American dream is put closer within reach to millions of Americans. People are beginning to give up hope. People are beginning to think that the American dream's not for them because of this stagnant economy. And when you take a look at what your government's doing to you in every nook and cranny of America, it's not good. Look, Lima, I know you understand, when you have a president who his only eagerness to cut spending is in our first and primary responsibility of the federal government, national security, when you have a president who has proposed again and again to shut down this tank factory, the only one we have, over a budget gimmick. This man, Jim Jordan, Mike Turner, and I, we said no. We passed legislation to prevent that from happening because we're not going to shut down the only tank plant we have in America over a budget gimmick. More importantly, this is the first round of President Obama's devastating defense cuts that he's proposing. There's another third round coming. We said, let's go cut spending where we ought to cut spending, and we passed that legislation. President Obama's silent on that. Here's the problem. If we keep doing this, if we keep showing that the only thing we want to do is gut our military, that projects weakness abroad. And by projecting weakness abroad, our adversaries are so much more tempted to test us, and our allies are so much less willing to trust us. We need peace through strength. We need a strong military, because if we have a strong military, then America is strong, and we're more peaceful, and we're more prosperous, and that keeps us safe here at home. Now, let me talk about a real problem. And of all the failures of the president, of all the broken promises we keep seeing, failure to confront our debt crisis is the worst one. You know, I remember Rob Portman, who, by the way, is a phenomenal, not only a good friend, but a phenomenal United States Senator, a great man who is doing a great job for you. He gave me his lucky Buckeye I carry around with me. I remember this like it was yesterday. The four of us were there. 2008. We had this crash, an economic crisis. The housing bubble burst. Everything went to haywire. And we had a crisis on our hands. Trillions of dollars of wealth gone out of people's retirement funds. Millions of jobs lost still to this day. That crisis in 2008 caught us by surprise. Let me ask you it this way. What if your president, what if your congressman, what if your senator saw it coming? What if they knew this crisis was coming? What if they knew why it was coming? What if they knew everything about the housing bubble? And what if they knew what they needed to do to stop it from happening? And they had the time to stop it from happening. But they just decided to do nothing because it wasn't good politics, because it compromised their re-election. What would you think of that person? Friends, that is precisely what President Obama is doing today by ignoring this debt crisis. Not only is he ignoring it, he's making it worse. He's piling up debt. And anybody who proposes an alternative, anybody who proposes a solution, he goes after them. That is not leadership. That is going to get us a debt crisis. We've had debt before in this country. If you could click the first slide, please. We've had debt in this country before. Take a look over here. World War II. I see some gentlemen here with VFW hats, and I see an American Legion. By the way, thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for what you've done. To fight and win World War II, we borrowed a lot of money. And we basically lent it to ourselves through war bonds. Our debt got as high as the entire economy. And you can do that without jeopardizing your economy so long as it's short term, so long as you know there's an end in sight, just like fighting a war. Well, the Congressional Budget Office tells us this is the future we have in front of us if we stay on the path we're on. Next one, please. This is America's debt that is in front of us. This is the crisis that's on our doorstep, that we see coming, that we know about, that President Obama sees these numbers, and not only is not doing anything to fix it, he's making it worse. We have a moral obligation. Number one, to save the American dream for our children and grandchildren by not giving them this national debt. But number two, by tackling it now before it tackles us. The problem is, if we keep going down this path, we will wind up like Europe, in a debt crisis. And you know what happens in a debt crisis? People who need government the most, people who retired based upon promises their government made them, people who are living on the safety net, they're the ones who get cut the first. They're slashing health and retirement benefits in Europe today for current seniors, cranking up taxes, and young people have no opportunities. That's the future that awaits us if we stick with Barack Obama's math, if we stick with his plan. We have to do something about this. Now, here's what's worse about it. Next slide, please. In the past, when we've borrowed money as a country, we've borrowed enough that we can carry it. You know, when you buy a house, you only buy so much house based upon your income so you can afford your mortgage. It works like that for governments, too. Well, in the past, when we borrowed money, we had about a $263 billion debt, and about 5% of it was owned by other countries, by other governments, the rest by Americans. Back in 1990, our debt got a bit bigger, you know, between $2 and $3 trillion. 19%. Look at our debt right now. Our debt, this is the treasury bonds we sell. 11 trillion we're sending out there, selling treasury bonds, and almost half of our debt is owned by foreign governments. Here's the problem. This is not just a debt that we owe to ourselves. It's not my mom living, retiring and living on treasury bills, lending our government her money. It's China, Japan, and other countries lending us their money. And that means we are that much more dependent on other governments to cash flow our government. That is not a good situation. They dictate the terms. We lose our independence and our sovereignty under this kind of a situation. That's why this is a debt crisis that we must stop. Mitt Romney and I are not going to kick the can down the road. We are not going to blame other people. We are going to tackle this problem before it tackles us and get this budget balanced and get this debt under control and stop this from ruining our economy. Now, I know I threw a bunch of numbers out at you. We have a debt clock in here somewhere, I think. And we did have a debt clock in here somewhere. It's $16 trillion now, and counting, the total debt. But what does that number mean? I mean, that's the thing a lot of folks ask me is, all these trillions and billions, what does that mean to me? Well, here is what President Obama inherited when he came in office. And it was a mess created by both parties. Our share, every man, woman, and child's share of the debt in 2009 was $35,000. Now, this is because both political parties made mistakes. Let's be the first to admit that. Republicans and Democrats contributed to this problem by making a lot of empty promises that the government could never keep, and therein lies our national debt. The question is, when President Obama came into office, he said he'd tackle this problem, cut the deficit in half in the first 4 years. Where are we since then? Take a look. Our debt, your share, everybody's share of debt, is up $16,000. That's a 45% increase in the share of debt for every single person in this country to $51,000 and climbing. It's like your new mortgage. It's bigger than a car payment. This is the debt that is being racked up for our generation. Now, we've got to deal with this. We've got to deal with this fast before we have a crisis. We also have to put in place pro-growth solutions and policies, which I want to get to, but I want to have a conversation to get people back to work. This is one of the most important choices we will make in our generation, and it doesn't matter if you're in the World War II generation, in the X generation, or you're just starting off in life. Because we're going to decide not just who's going to be president for the next 4 years, we're going to decide what kind of country are we going to have for the next generation? What kind of people are we going to be for the next generation? We want to be free people. We want to have a prosperous country. We want to have the American dream and the American opportunity be there for everybody. We want to move people out of poverty, back to the middle class, and get people back into lives of self-sufficiency. Now, I know I've thrown a bit at you, but I've just got to say, we've had problems in this country before. These ones are as big as they've ever been. And you need leaders to be honest with you. You need leaders to tell you, here's who we are, here's what we believe, here's what we're going to do, elect us, and we'll do this. What Mitt and I are asking you for is to earn this victory, is to deserve this victory, to give you these solutions so that when we win, we have the obligation, the mandate, the moral authority to fix this mess, get this country back on the right track, and get people back to work, and get America back to where it needs to be. That's what this is all about. So let's have a conversation. Let's just have a town hall. How about I just go around the room, and if you can raise your hands, you know, how about right there, the guy in the red right there? And I'll just move all around.
Okay. I got a question for you. I just want to make a recommendation for you. The first day you take office, will you repeal Obamacare and bring back our country and just, I'm so frustrated, and just bring and privatize our healthcare system. The government has no say in healthcare. Keep it between the doctor and patient. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Thank you. The answer is yes. On day one, Mitt Romney is going to send an executive order granting those waivers. And then what these gentlemen in Congress, with Josh Mandel in the Senate and the majority, and we are going to do, is we are going to repeal and replace this entire law, because Obamacare is not only a threat to health care, Obamacare is not only a threat to Medicare, it's a threat to job creation. Look, we can have a healthcare system in America where everybody has access to affordable care, including people with pre-existing conditions, without a government takeover, without government deciding who and where we get our health care from. We believe in patient-centered health care. We believe in Medicare where you are in charge. One of the most insidious things about Obamacare is not just the $716 billion they raid from Medicare to pay for Obamacare, but it's this new board of bureaucrats that President Obama puts in charge of Medicare. 15 people he appoints, 6-year terms. They're unelected, unaccountable, and they're required by law to cut Medicare providers every single year. That means they tighten the screws down by giving providers less and less money to provide medical care for Medicare patients. It gets to the point where they will be providing your hospitals, your doctors, your nursing homes less money than it costs to provide the care. Guess what? They won't provide it then. So when we subject our healthcare system to the decision by a handful of distant bureaucrats, that not only doesn't work, it harms healthcare for those who are in the program. We, by repealing Obamacare, end the rate of the Medicare Trust Fund, get rid of the bureaucracy, and leave Medicare intact for everybody who's in and near it, and then we need to save it for my generation. Those are the things we're proposing. Obamacare was sold on a false pretext. The president said if you like what you've got, you can keep it. Well, we've learned that's not true. Millions of people stand to lose their current health insurance they have at their job. Employers are encouraged to drop health insurance for their employees. He said it would lower the cost of health insurance. It's gone up, Rob told you just a minute ago, $2,500. It is just yet another long list of laundry lists of broken promises. In order to grow the economy, in order to save health care, in order to maintain that patient-doctor relationship where we are in charge of our own health care, you must repeal and replace Obamacare. And over here. How about a lady? How about the lady right there? How about that lady right there, the blonde lady right there? I just try to open it around.
First, welcome to Ohio. We're going to send you guys to the White House. But I think that gas prices are completely out of control, and actually all energy prices. And I'd like to know how we're going to get this solved.
It's double what it was 4 years ago. Number one in our 5-point plan to grow the economy for a stronger middle class is an energy policy. We put out a very specific set of reforms to get us North American energy independent by 2020. Let me start with this. We have got so much energy in this country, in this state. Let's use that energy in this country, in this state, to create jobs, to lower prices. You've got natural gas right here in Ohio. You've got coal right here in Ohio. Because of Obama administration's hostility to just coal, we lost 1,200 jobs last week in Virginia, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Now, what we've learned with having a real energy policy of North American energy independence, things like the Keystone Pipeline, look at where we've seen glimmers of hope. North Dakota is a perfect example. You've got the Bakken oil field up there, which is on private land, so the Obama administration can't frustrate its development nearly as much as they are elsewhere, and they have the lowest unemployment rate in the country. They have a boom. What is it doing? It's increasing incomes. It's increasing manufacturing jobs. People are getting good wages. They're getting more take-home pay, and we're lowering the price of gas. I mean, it's a winner. And so President Obama is standing in the way of this. Not only is he blocking exploration of natural gas and oil on federal lands, he's virtually shutting down the coal industry. He's not allowing the Keystone Pipeline to be built, which means that oil just goes to China. And he has this plan for this national energy tax, which he passed through the House, which is to put a tax on all of our fossil fuel, on our carbon energy. His explicit goal is to make energy more expensive, not less expensive. Look, that's a job killer. And the first thing that Mitt Romney and I are going to do is we're going to clear the decks. We're going to be pro-coal, pro-natural gas, pro-oil, pro-jobs, pro-manufacturing, and pro-lower prices. That gets us jobs. How about right here? No. You got to wait for a mic. Otherwise, no one will hear you, sir. I'll hear you, though.
You're going to make it up there. I know you will. I think you'll be a great man for us all. But what we need in this country, when you're talking with the way you are, what you're saying is correct, we need backbone in the Republican Party. We have not had backbone in the Republican Party for many years. The ideas that the Republicans come up with, some of them are very good. Okay, we think we're going to get something done. And what happens every time that really upsets me, Dan Hermiller, is they bow and they back away from it and they do not continue on with their force like the Democratic Party does. We as Republicans got to get a backbone and don't cave.
I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. You know, I'm one of those guys who put these ideas out there when they weren't cool. During the Bush administration, I would mind you. Here's how you cut spending. Here's how you reform these programs. Forget about the proverbial third rail in politics. We have got to take on these challenges before they tackle us. When Mitt Romney asked me to join the ticket, he said this to me. He said, number one, you share my values. Number two, you have shown that you have the gumption and the guts to reform this in Congress, to get things done. That's the kind of experience I need, because we have to save America in 2013. Join me and let's do that. And you know what I said to him? I said, let's get that done. And so, the other thing I would say is, look, I may have gone to school here in Ohio, but I'm born and raised Wisconsin. Hey, great, some Wisconsin people over there. Hey, you can root for the Packers tonight against the Seahawks, right? All right? All right. The reason I mention Wisconsin is, this is what we did in Wisconsin. We said, our state legislature, you ever heard of a guy named Scott Walker? Yeah. That's our governor. We said, this is our problem. Here is what we're going to do if you elect us. Then they got elected. Then they did it, and they stuck by it. They tried to recall our state legislature, our Supreme Court, and our governor. And you know what Wisconsinites said? They said, finally, political conviction and political courage send them back, and they got a bigger vote margin in their recall election than they did in their original election. That's the lesson to be learned from that. And that is precisely what Mitt and I are saying. Look, I can go on and on detail. Here's our energy policy. Here's our education policy to get behind the parent and the child, not the teachers union. Here's our trade policy to hold cheaters accountable, to make more things and sell more things. Here's our spending cuts. Here's our entitlement reforms. Here's our tax reform. Here's our small business agenda. Here is our plan for economic growth, for limited government and economic freedom. And if you elect us, we will put it in place. This is the covenant we are asking you for. That's what elections are. We establish a covenant with the people who send us to represent them. And the covenant we are asking you for is affirm these countries' founding principles, affirm the notion that our rights come from nature and nature's God, not from government, affirm liberty and freedom and free enterprise, self-determination, government by consent of the governed. And these principles give us these policies, and if you elect us, this is what we're going to do. That's why we're asking you to send Jim Jordan and Mike Turner back. That's why we're asking you to send us Josh Mandel, so we have the mandate and the ability to get this done and save this country from where it's going, which is on a very dangerous path. How about over there?
Mr. Vice President, I've been watching our friends on MSNBC over the last several days, and they seem to go segment after segment, show after show, talking about this silly 47% comment, but yet we've got diplomats in the Middle East that have been taken down along with other workers, and I want to know what your thoughts are on our foreign affairs, especially in the Middle East.
First, let me address this 47%, because this is the point that Mitt and I are trying to make. We want an opportunity society, not a welfare state. That's what the American dream is. Now, what our objective is to address the root causes of poverty, to break the cycle of poverty, instead of simply treating poverty to make it more tolerable, because you'll get more poverty that way. We want to get people out of poverty, into the middle class, onto lives of self-sufficiency. And in the stagnant Obama economy, we have the highest poverty rate we've had in a generation. People are slipping behind. More and more people don't believe the American dream is there for them. You see, in this country, we have these great stories. It doesn't matter who you are or where you came from or how you were born, you can make the most of your life because we are a free society. We have a free enterprise economy. And the whole idea of that is upward mobility, is you can make the most of your life. But that is becoming further out of reach from people. And so we should not be measuring the success of our safety net, of programs like food stamps, based upon how many people we get on food stamps. We should be measuring the success of these programs based on how many people we get off of food stamps, off of welfare, and back to work in lives of self-sufficiency. That's what growth is all about. That's what we're talking about. That's dignity. Now, to your important point about defense, this is the point we're making. You know, when the president came into office, he made these grand speeches, beautiful rhetoric, great promises, and he made the case that the power of his personality and his persuasion powers would calm things in the Muslim world, would make people respect us and like us that much more. I mean, turn on the TV and it reminds you of 1979 Tehran, but they're burning our flags in capitals all around the world. They're storming our embassies. We've lost 4 of our diplomats. And what is the signal that our government is sending the rest of the world? We're being equivocal on our values. We're being slow to speak up for individual rights, for human rights, for democracy. We're seeing countries stifle freedom in Iran, in Russia, in all these other areas. And we're saying we're going to gut our national security, our military. that projects weakness. And when you project American weakness, the superpower projecting weakness, that creates a vacuum, that creates a void. That void gets filled by people and countries who do not share our interests. It means our adversaries are that much more tempted to test us, and our allies are much less likely to trust us, like Israel. We, again, this is why you don't, for budget gimmicks, shut down your only M1 tank plant in America. This is why you don't gut national security. This is why you have peace through strength, because if we're strong, if we're clear with who we are and what our values are, our adversaries will respect us more and our allies will trust us more. And that's why peace through strength is going to be the Romney-Ryan administration's doctrine.
How's it going?
Yeah.
Welcome to Lima. Well, first, my mom and fiance let me point out you'd be the most handsome vice president that we've had. With
I
all
won't
due
say that to
respect-
Joe Biden.
Due respect to Biden and Cheney, but my question is this. For those of us who would have voted in the primaries for, say, Ron Paul, why should we vote for you, not, say, Libertarian or, Vermin Supreme in the Pony Party or something like that?
Do you want Barack Obama to be reelected? Then don't vote for Ron Paul. Look. Actually, Ron's a friend of mine. I know Ron very well. I like Ron quite a bit. There are many things that Ron has championed that I'm a big believer in, especially liberty and sound money. Look at where we are. And this is where we all see eye to eye. We believe in limited government and economic freedom. We believe in pro-growth policies that say you keep your money in your family's budget, in your business, instead of sending it to Washington in the first place. That creates prosperity, freedom, and jobs. And on an issue where Ron has been particularly explicit, the Federal Reserve is yet again trying to bail out the fact that President Obama has failed on fiscal policy. All of this money printing, which is coming from the Federal Reserve, risks debasing our currency. It risks undermining the value of our dollar. It risks increasing prices on things like food and gas. And among the things that the government can do to harm its people, one of the worst things is to debase its currency. We need sound money. We need our money to have a reliable store of value, especially for people living on fixed incomes. That's an area that we feel very strongly about. And the best way to do that is to get government to live within its means, is to cut spending, balance the budget, get this debt paid off, and have sound money, and let free enterprise, not crony capitalism, not money printing, not regulating and spending and borrowing dominate the day, but free enterprise, limited government, and entrepreneurial spirit. That's how you get people back to work. That's how you get higher take-home pay. That's how you get prosperity. These are the things we're talking about, and these are the things I think you would agree with us on. You bet. How about over here?
Welcome to Lima, and I would like to know what the government's going to do, or what you and Mitt will do to keep jobs here in the United States. I worked for an automotive company. I was working in a supplier area, and I worked there for 36 years. And they closed down our plant, and they sent everything to China and Mexico. And is there anything that you people can do for us to either penalize these companies that's taking all our jobs from America, or something to keep our jobs here in the United States so we don't have to be on welfare or anything like that?
Great question. Look, I represent southern Wisconsin. Just since 2008, we've lost 4 auto factories. We lost a GM plant, a Kenosha Chrysler plant, 2 Delphi plants. Believe you me, I mean, especially in this sector of our economy. Where I come from, this bailout isn't a ringing success. We have a wake of layoffs, especially the Kenosha plant, where they opened up a plant in Mexico instead of one in Kenosha. Here's what we think. Number one, let's never forget that 95% of the world's consumers live outside this country. That means we need to make more things in America and sell them overseas. You need trade agreements that work for that. That means we need to get trade, we need to get countries to play fairly with us. You know, if you add up all the countries we have trade agreements with, we have a surplus with them. But the countries we don't, like China, according to the International Trade Commission, just China's theft of our intellectual property has cost us 2 million jobs in America alone. Of all the things that President Obama said he would do and has not done, that he's under-delivered on, it is being tough on those who manipulate and take our technology. It is not opening up the markets for our products so we can make more things and sell more things. And we got to make sure we lower the cost of making things in America. Look, where I come from, overseas, which is Lake Superior, the Canadians, they just lowered their tax rate on all of their businesses to 15%. Don't forget that 8 out of 10 businesses in America, 9 out of 10 in Ohio, they file their taxes as people, as individuals, not as corporations. President Obama is guaranteeing that if reelected, the top tax rate on our job creators goes above 40%. When we tax our job creators, and our manufacturers in particular, at rates that are more than twice as much as our foreign competitors tax theirs, they win, we lose. And when you have this terrible energy policy, which puts American-made energy out of reach of Americans, out of reach of our manufacturers, that raises the cost of manufacturing. That raises the price of everything we do. And so we need a jobs policy that makes it easier for America to make things in America. We need to fix our tax system. The president likes to play class warfare. He likes to think that it's just some rich ball player, you know, that it's just going to be Aaron Rodgers or some Wall Street guy or some movie star that's just going to pay these high taxes he's talking about. No, it's actually estimated to cost us 700,000 jobs alone because it's a tax increase on a nearly 1 million small businesses. The problem is, if we go down the path the president has put us on, America becomes that much less competitive. Our competitors will beat us. We won't be as optimistic. We won't be as competitive. We won't be able to create as many jobs. And so, number one, we need to cut spending because this debt is killing us. This debt is hurting us. Don't forget that the tax increase I'm telling you about, this one on successful small businesses, it only pays for 8% of the president's proposed deficit spending. So all he's saying is take more money from businesses and families so that they can spend it on Washington on who they want to spend it on. Friends, if borrowing and spending and taxing was the secret to success, we would be entering a golden age along with Greece. It's not. And so that's what our plan is all about. That's what the Romney plan for a real recovery, the 5-point plan, is all about. Have an energy policy. Clean up our tax system so we have a simple, fair, competitive tax system. Get people the skills they need. A lot of my friends who lost their jobs at these auto plants are in between. They're in their 40s or their 50s. And they don't have skills to get a good job. We got to clean that up. We got 46 different job training programs spread across about a dozen different government agencies, and we don't even measure whether they're working or not. We got to clean that up, streamline it, so people in between jobs can get the skills they need to go back to work. We have the economic policy that makes it easier to make things in America, to keep your businesses in America, and we go forward with optimism and prosperity and economic growth, and we get people back to work. That's what this agenda is all about. How about that gentleman right there? Yeah, can you get to the gentleman there? There you go.
First off, I want to say thank you for your job on that budget committee and all the things that you've been doing on that.
Thank you.
I'm really concerned about President Obama's policies. What do you call them? Executive orders?
That's what he likes to call them. He likes to do a lot of them.
How are you going to rescind these things, by golly? That's our big challenge.
Here's the great thing about a Mitt Romney presidency. For an executive order that came from the last president, the new president can undo it. And believe me, we're planning that. How about this guy right here? Oh, sorry.
I applaud you for everything you guys stand for, putting God in place and first. most of all. One thing that really amazes me is one of the things that Obama's already done or in the process of right now is giving UN power over our oil rights outside of our border, or right on the edge of our United States, to be able to sell it to Iran or China or whoever. How can we undo that?
Well, a couple of things I'd say. I think the President, on too many occasions, has deferred our foreign policy leadership to the UN Security Council, to the UN. This means Russia and China get to veto what we want to do. Why do we want to give them that kind of clout over our national security interests? That's very important. The second thing is, we have the technology we have to get oil and gas. It just in the last 10 years is amazing. It's a breakthrough. We could literally be energy independent by 2020. That is not a pipe dream. That is a possibility if you get the right policies in place. And so a Romney-Ryan administration will, number one, we will do what is best in the interest of the American economy, of the American people, and what is best in our national security. And that means we are not going to subjugate our interests to other bodies, to other interests. It also means that if, and I'm not sure what border you're talking about specifically, but if we have oil and gas that is within our jurisdiction, let's go get that oil and gas that is in our jurisdiction so we can use that oil and gas so we don't have to buy oil and gas from overseas. It's the biggest source of our trade deficit. It's the biggest source of our trade deficit, and we're sending money to countries that don't necessarily like us too much. So this, to me, is a national security issue and an economic security issue. I got time for one more. Yeah.
Yes,
That's what he's telling me. I apologize.
I was wondering, I myself have 3 children that are in the armed forces. I want my children to come home. I want to know. I would like to know.
Thank you for your family and your 3 children for their service to our country.
Thank you. I would like to know what your plans are to bring our children home, and what kind of home are they going to come home to?
Okay, 2 points. Number one, I assume you're talking about Afghanistan.
Absolutely.
So we agree with what we call the 2014 transition. That has already been negotiated. We agree with it, where we're transitioning authority over the Afghans to take over their security. And our goal is to train them up so that they can do that, so they can prevent the Taliban and Al-Qaeda from taking over and having another safe haven for terrorism. We agree with that. But here's where Mitt Romney and I have a big concern with the decision-making of President Obama. In Afghanistan, and I've been there, I was there just as recently as December. In Afghanistan, they have what they call fighting seasons. It's a high-altitude country. And on the border with Pakistan are big mountain ranges. Those mountain ranges fill in with snow, and then the fighters, they can't come over. So they have a fighting season. It's basically the warm months. We're in a fighting season right now, and we will be for another couple of months. And our commanders on the ground have said to the President, they came to his committee, Admiral Mullen, General Petraeus, and said, this is what we need to prosecute the mission you've given us to keep our troops safe. That's not what President Obama gave them, though. He just took 22,000 people out of theater this month, which I would argue is a political motivated timetable before an election, but we're still giving our soldiers the same mission. We're just making them do this mission with fewer people. And when you send your men and women out with fewer people than what the commanders on the ground say they need, you are putting them in jeopardy. Mitt Romney will never put politics ahead of what is in the right interest of our national security and our war fighters. We will never do that. That is wrong. You can tell I feel strongly about that. We all have friends over there. You have family. The second point, what kind of country are they coming back to? The kind of country they're coming back to as a result of President Obama's policies is an economy where we've had unemployment above 8% for 43 months, where 15% of people are living in poverty, where half of all recent college graduates either are not working in the field they trained or are working at all. That is not the kind of economic opportunity you want people coming back from war into.
Right.
Here's the good news. We can fix this. It is not too late. But friends, that window of opportunity to get this turned around, to tackle these problems before they tackle us, to prevent a debt crisis from engulfing us like it is in Europe, to get this economy growing, to put the policies in place that get people back to work, that get people out of poverty, back to the middle class, to get higher income, higher take-home pay, more economic opportunity, so people coming back from war or coming out of school actually have opportunities. That can be gotten. We can do this. It's not too late. But if you wait 4 more years, because all President Obama is promising is basically 4 more years of the same, then it's not only going to stagnate, it will get worse. Here's the problem. If you want to fix these problems, if you want to tackle these big challenges, you need leaders who will say, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is what I will do. You elect them, and then you'll hold them accountable to make sure that they do that. President Obama ran that way. He ran on hope and change. He ran on all these promises, and he's breaking all of these promises. President Obama himself just admitted the other day on Univision that he can't fix Washington from the inside. I mentioned this earlier. That is why you send presidents to Washington, to fix what's broken in Washington. I'll leave you with this. Since he's admitted that he can't change Washington, then we need to admit that we need to change presidents. We can do this, everybody. We can get this done. We can tackle these challenges. We can get people back to work. In Ohio, we need your help. We're not going to duck the tough issues. We're going to get things done. We're not going to blame other people for 4 years. We will take responsibility. And we will not try to replace our founding principles or transform this country into anything it's not intended to be. We will reapply our founding principles, and we will get this done. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it. God bless you all. Thank you.